Hi, I'm John Blanchard, and today I'm looking into an image from 1950 that predicts what agriculture is going to look like in the year 2000. Further, I'll be looking into the context of this post-war era and how that may have influenced the image. The image, not so creatively, is named Predictions for the year 2000 AD. Aldous Huxley, the illustrator of the image, was primarily an English writer, novelist, and philosopher who moved to the US prior to World War II. He is best known for his novel Brave New World, which I will discuss later on. As a philosopher in this time of change, Huxley spent much of his time on future predictions. Predictions for the year 2000 depicts an agricultural landscape, not the typical fields, but rolling hills with trees and buildings scattered throughout. Crop lines go as far as you can see to the base of the mountains and to a very defined line of trees. Self-driving tractors tend to the land controlled by a singular farmer in a high-tech buggy. To recall, the image was made in 1950, 5 years after World War II ended. Soldiers are coming home and babies, now known as the baby boomers, are being born. Over the 18 years after the war, the U.S. had an average birth rate of 4.35 million a year, up from 2.8 million the year before. The Great Depression had been raging on for 10 years prior to the war. To help escape the Depression, workers were brought into factories to help the war effort. But after the war, we were left with huge industries with no purpose. New American values of living peacefully and pleasantly took over. The economy was as strong as ever, and the factories started pumping out consumer goods that Americans gladly threw money at. Air conditioners, power lawnmowers, vacuum cleaners, dishwashers, televisions, plastics, washing machines, dryers, and more were created, innovated, and consumed during this time. Also with their money, populations began to leave the cities in exchange for a life of suburbia. Houses were being built at an extreme pace. City planners feared the population boom, that it could be much bigger than the neighborhoods, schools, hospitals, and other infrastructures that they've built. Over in the United Kingdom, there was even fear that the island nation would run out of land and resources altogether. While this is not true for the expansive land of America, the states definitely felt the same stresses. A common fear across the board was that the world wasn't going to be able to feed itself anymore. Farmers were encouraged to maximize their yields through use of increased artificial inputs and improved plant and animal genetics. This trend has continued into modern times, as evident of our massive industrial farming operations and hordes of animals in CAFOs. Horses were being replaced by tractors. Huge chemical warfare plants from the war were repurposed to produce pesticides. Likewise, munition plants were transformed into massive fertilizer operations. Waves of improved biological, chemical, and mechanical technology swept over the agriculture industry. The new technology was made to bolster farm production to great production and efficiency, and on a large scale too. Despite the fear that we would run out of food, the amount of farms actually decreased during this time because small farms were being replaced by massive ones, capable of pumping out enormous quantities of food. This post-World War era was a time of drastic societal change. Predictions of a future were increasingly popular because of this, and because of the new technology being produced and the development of nuclear energy, which many people believed would soon power the world at a very cheap price. When studying future predictions, we learn much more about the time the prediction was made than we do about the actual future. The automated tractors make farming very efficient, a strong value of this era. Leisure time was also sought after, evident by the singular farmer rather than an army of workers. Huxley, in the midst of his predictions, came up with 3 problems the post-World War era would face. First is avoiding war. That's reasonable. Next is the problem of feeding and clothing the swelling population, which finally, the world must do while not destroying the planet and its resources. Huxley then elaborates. He hopes the world will be able to increase its food yields. This is evident in his image. The automatic tractors that peruse the land would certainly increase efficiency and food output. The farmer's control buggy is filled with dials and buttons. You can imagine he's controlling an army of tractors. In order to generate enough food, Huxley believes all available land should be utilized for farm production. This is evident by crops that stretch as far as you can see to the base of the mountains, and also by the farmer, who is utilizing a more hilly landscape rather than the preferable flat fields. Finally, he strongly believes that we must protect our resources, especially our forests. This is depicted by the carefully arranged woods, which could also be an orchard, in which case it would be doubly beneficial. It is also seen by the trees scattered throughout the crops, which easily could have been chopped down to ease the harvest. As mentioned earlier, Huxley in 1931 offered Brave New World, a dystopia novel where humans lose individual identity in the fast-paced world of the future. He predicts the year 2540 will be extremely industrialized, antiseptic, and pure. Humans will be so bored with themselves they end up having orgies in the street. Where our image seemed like a pleasant one, the morbid tone of Brave New World can come through. The image is extremely mechanized and autonomous. Speed and efficiency were strongly valued at the time, and the nuclear tractors probably whiz around. The single farmer probably only works a 4-hour day. I found this image in an article by Matt Novak on a website called Paleo Future. Novak regularly posts about other predictions for the future from the past, and Paleo Future is filled with amusing content. You should check them both out. For now, thanks for listening, and goodbye.